Okay, there we go. There we go. I think we're live. Are we live? Stop panicking. If I check chat in a second, you better not be screaming late in the comments section. Otherwise, I'm gonna fucking flip out. I was agonizing over what goddamn background music I wanted to have for today's stream. Oh God, no, I'm not ready. I should have hit the go live button. I am not ready. Christ's sake, hang on, give me a second. I'm lost. I'm lost. Panic! Panic! I'm not ready. Oh no. God, I've lost my goddamn thing. I've lost my chat. Where are you all? Hello, is anybody there? Okay, there we go. Good. Well, hello. Good. What time is it? Good afternoon, Americans. Good evening, everybody. Gentlemen, it's me again. How's it going, boys? Today, yes, you did hear Dizzy and Sir Canada just a second. I've got 700 million Phase Connect related tabs open for obviously the Phase Connect documentary. By the way, speaking of the Phase Connect documentary, boys, how would you guys feel if it was 4 hours long? would it being 4 hours long be a problem? I'm asking for no reason in particular. But anyway, gentlemen, today's going to be a Yaps. Don't what the fuck need Pascal sources. Perfectly normal. I don't know if it's going to be 4 hours. It's going to be it's going to be more than 2 hours. I can guarantee you that. Gentlemen, today we're gonna be yapping in a sense about why Commander Data from Star Trek, the Next Generation, is the bestest boy. He's the bestest character in TV, period. If you have a different opinion on Commander Data, then you're wrong. Unless, of course, it's Agent Doggett from the X-Files. What makes Data such a fantastic character isn't just the character in himself or the acting by Brent Spiner, but rather it's the writing and the philosophical questions around his very being. So before we get into today's stream, let me explain who Commander Data is. 4 hours, let's go. That is insane. I don't know if it's going to be 4 hours. Probably going to be more than 2 hours. I'm going to spend over an hour just summarizing each Phase Connect talent in and of itself. It may be maybe 2.5, maybe 3 hours. God, Pascal Source is impressed. Hell yeah. We'll have to spell your name Maulington if you're giving if you're giving us long content. Not for me, but not for everybody. It might be cool, but not Spider Pig cool. Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does. Oh, Mauler. I see what you mean. Yeah, Mauler. I quite like Mauler. Good content creator, Mauler. I'm all for dobre, Bonnie. I'm all for it. I love a short introduction for 7-hour documentary. Certainly that pop on YouTube. Hey, Slices of Lemons. How's it going, buddy? Happy late Monday. I'm very sorry. Monday is normally quite a busy day for me, but I like men's Mondays. It rolls off the tongue. I like Spock more, but Data is a close second. I mean, Data is basically the Next Generation Spock, right? So let me explain about who Commander Data is. So Data isn't a human being, okay? So Data's a character in Star Trek The Next Generation. He's not a human being. He's a self-aware, sapient, sentient android. He has the ability to learn, he can get drunk, and he's capable of understanding the frivolous morality of human beings and emotions. And in some respects, you could probably almost describe Data as like a mega savant, autistic type. He was found by Starfleet, abandoned on a planet, and he's a product of a genius scientist known as Dr. Noonien Soong. It's Taco Tuesdays, yeah! I used to be a Star Trek fan, then Discovery fixed that problem. Yeah, I watched Red Letter Media discussing Star Trek Discovery, and I was like, yeah, gonna give that one a miss. Same thing with Star Trek Picard. It's quite sad to see what Hollywood has done to a formerly brilliant Shakespearean actor. Machine Man, yeah. By the way, my wife has a co-worker that calls herself a Trekkie, but recently admitted she's never seen the OG TV series. I told my wife to call her a filthy tourist ASAP. I don't know. To not even have watched one episode of the older series, I guess, is kind of a is kind of a bummer. But I understand people who aren't a big fan of the very cheesy, Captain Kirk era of Star Trek. He's got Spock and all the just the silly, ham sandwich budget shenanigans. So yeah, that's basically the summary of Data is if you don't know who he is. So in today's episode, we're going to take a look at, first of all, I think we're going to start off with, are we going to start off with, what have I got planned? Is it leadership? No, I think it's data property first, and then we're going to take a look into leadership when Commander Data takes over ships. I think Star Trek has a lot to teach people about good leadership. So to begin with, we're going to talk about an episode of Star Trek called The Measure of a Man. Sorry, I always stream after I've just eaten, and it makes me gassy. So, The Measure of the Man is an episode. It's the 9th episode of the 2nd season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it was broadcast in 1989, which is quite incredible actually, because it looks very late 90s. So there's good camera work there. So basically the summary of this episode is basically it explores the rights of the android Lieutenant Commander Data. So Data's very right to being is threatened by a scientist who wishes to dismantle Data and produce replicas of him so that every single ship in Starfleet has their own version of Data. And the reason why, obviously, they'd want a Data in every single Starfleet ship is because he has the ability to process like 20 trillion processes in like a second, right? So he's basically a super duper mega computer. And the whole, I guess, drama of the episode is that his commanding officer, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, fights for Data in a Starfleet court for his right of self-determination, his right to exist, his right to sentience, essentially, and to not be declared mere property of Starfleet. And due to circumstances, one of Data's colleagues, the second in command of the Enterprise, Commander William Riker, who can't sit down properly and always has to put his foot on something, is obliged to argue on behalf of the scientists. So you've got a tragic situation of where duty gets between friends and colleagues. So before I yap about whether the Data is property, let's watch some clips which will hopefully not get my stream taken down for copyright infringement. So we'll see. Oh my god! Thank you very much for the 5 gifted. Thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs, Pavley John, my friend. Thank you very much, buddy. Pavley, were you remind me, Pavley, were you Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines? Is Pavlo, is that an Air Force aircraft, a Pavlo? The reason why I ask is I don't know whether to ooh are you or I don't know whether to who are you. Do I who are you or do I ooh are you? But thank you very much for the 5 gifted memberships, Pavlo. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Thank you, my friend. Is he allowed to vote? Do they have vote? I imagine they must have voting in Star Trek, right? Isn't it supposed to be like kind of space democracy, but also space communism, right? Hey, not the ATF. How's it going, buddy? Good to see you, my friend. Data's a great character with one critical flaw in his backstory. He's been in Starfleet 20 years before serving on Enterprise. Yet all of his learning of humanisms occur during the show. That's true. That's very true as well. And there's some other major flaws with the argument as to whether he's property or not as well in this episode, which I'll get into once we watch some of this stuff. I was an Air Force helo pilot. They say hua in the Air Force as well, right? But I was trained by an old Vietnam helicopter pilot, so I feel like I should be in the army. The old aircraft guys who knew their Hueys like the back of their hand, right? They skim those bad boys over the treetops, like hell yeah! I love to have a ride in a Huey from a Vietnam vet. I think they're a bit too old now to be doing flights for people. I don't know. But anyway, let's watch a clip as to whether Data is property or not. Okay, and I hope you've been able to follow that. Okay, I'm going to show you one last clip before we start the yapping and my point of view as to whether or not Data is property. That's one. So before Picard takes the stance of defending Commander Data, they have another little chat because he is not human. Precisely because he is not human. Therefore, yeah, and shameful, his commanding officer does not care for the livelihood of his own man. So this is essentially the philosophical quandary of this episode. Is Commander Data property, or is Commander Data a sentient being deserving of all the rights and laws that would be afforded to any human being, any officer in Starfleet? So would anyone like to chime in and give their take as to whether Data is just a machine like a computer, or is he very much a sentient being? And what would be your point of view? Hey, Phoenix Shaman. Mandatory cyber implants would likely be a thing in real sci-fi series focused on military operations. It probably would be, Pavlo. I can imagine it being now, right? It's like you'd fail to meet the minimum, competency standards about some kind of neuro and optical and physical cyber implants to, radically improve your meat sack to accomplish high value, military kind of operations. Data was designed and not just a machine, but evolved into sentience. And what about the very idea, though, that he's property, Phoenix Shaman? Do you think Data is property? And if so, whose property is he? Is he Starfleet's property? Or is he Dr. Noonien Soong's property? Because obviously Dr. Soong is still alive. Therefore, if Data is property, then does he belong to Starfleet? Is he not Dr. Soong's lost property? Or do salvage rights take precedence? Is it because Data was found abandoned and Starfleet picked him up, which makes under salvage rights laws, does that qualify him to be Starfleet's property? Wait a minute, it's not Monday at all. Hey, Bam. No, I was very busy yesterday, unfortunately, so I had to move it a day, but I like the title Men's Monday, so we're going to keep it. We already have cybernetics, but it's mostly for amputees and medical issues. That's true. Soon, well, I say soon, in our lifetime, we may see people forcibly have to undertake amputations with cybernetics to improve their ability. Soong was believed to be dead at that point. Oh, was he? Actually, I forgot about that detail. I thought it was known Soong was alive at this point. He'll say shalom, shalom. Data isn't a woman. Data isn't a woman, so clearly he is a property. Turin-based Phoenix Shaman, Turin-based. Okay. Oh shit. Some background music would be great, actually. I'm pretty sure I had some background music prepared. 1 second. You know what? Let's go with no background music. Fuck it. We'll raw dog today's stream. So, if I was going to deconstruct, I guess, some of the issues I have with this episode from a legal and philosophical standpoint. So, my kind of substantive legal arguments to argue that Data is a free sentient being, okay? Point number one I'd like to argue is that Starfleet has basically acquiesced to Data's non-property status by admitting him to the Starfleet Academy rather than purchasing him on the market. So what I'd like to argue is that Data's purely voluntarily decision to apply to Starfleet, where he was accepted over solely the objection of Commander Maddox, is completely nonsensical under the theory that Data is the property of Starfleet. So unlike the Enterprise computer, which is one point they like to make here, the prosecution's favorite example indeed, Data willingly applied to Starfleet. He was not constructed by Starfleet. He was transferred to the Enterprise as an employee, as a military officer, not installed on it. He has quarters, not cargo bay shelf space. None of the hallmarks of Starfleet's property are present upon his person. And in fact, they have recognized Data's contributions by promoting him and even giving him certain command authority over Starfleet personnel. But what's most important is that Data willingly accepted Data's application to Starfleet. They did not buy him. They did not build him. They admitted him as a candidate. He passed the tests. It's absurd to think that Data simply became the property of Starfleet at the moment of his acceptance to Starfleet. Property rights transfer from one person to another. So if Data was property prior to joining Starfleet, then whose property was he? If he's nobody's property, what gives Starfleet the right to convert Starfleet applicants into property? And what are the limits of his rights? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? The first advancements of cybernetics will be night viz, thermals, and adrenal clotting implants. Yeah, they'll probably go with adrenal and clotting first, but I think the whole having your natural Mark 1 eyeballs replaced with optical shit is a bit too much for people to stomach at the moment. I watched almost zero Star Trek, but the burden of proof for sentience is quite high. How do androids in Star Trek work? I just got here. It depends. There's many different kinds of androids. I don't exactly know the science behind Data, but what I do know about Data, obviously, as we kind of explained at the beginning of the stream, is that he's a complex kind of cybernetic organism because he is a supercomputer. He is a learning algorithm, but he also develops sentience, and he's able to understand and experience human emotions and sobriety. Am I wrong that he was faulty because accidentally gained sentience? Yes, that's right. He accidentally gained sentience, and to some extent, you could argue that that makes him faulty. If something is so sentient, it can argue in favor of its own rights in a rational manner. I would tend to think that rights would be deserved in that case. That's an interesting point. But then, could you not program an algorithm, a learning machine, to argue that point of view without it understanding the context as to why? Giving him command authority would be a tricky issue, since he could order a human being to their certain death in certain circumstances. That would be interesting to debate. That's true, but then you could also argue that the position of leadership, particularly in a military command structure, is predicated upon the social contract that the leader looks after the best interests of the soldiers under him, and it's their business to not only protect the body politic, but to complete the mission and to protect and guide the people that's under them. Hey, Kara. Technically, he is an android, not cyborg, and no human rights, so yes, he would be property. Yeah, I don't actually understand. What's the difference between an android and a cyborg, by the way? Could someone explain that to me? So, Kara, you're arguing that he would in fact be property. I barely know anything about Star Trek, but I know Data is human enough to have nightmares. Yeah, it's again, you could argue that his nightmares are just like a glitch in his kind of neural network, rather than being nightmares as we as human beings understand them now. Data is an android, Picard is a cyborg. That's true. Picard is a filthy Borg. Picard is a filthy Borg convert. Cyborg is a biological enhanced with machines. An android is a machine mimicking humans. Okay, so yeah, he's an android. Data is completely artificial, and Picard has an artificial heart. I see. Okay, so the second point I'd like to make about Commander Data is that the prosecution hasn't actually made a case that Data is property, and so the case should be dismissed. So what I mean by that is when Commander Riker and Commander Maddox make the following case, they make the case that Data is strong, Data can bend like metal that no organic life form in the known universe could realistically bend. He's intelligent beyond any reasonable organic life form could be. And with the flip of a switch, Data can be rendered unconscious. You can remove Data's hand, just like he's built out of Lego. And none of these items, either individually or in the aggregate, make anything like a case of property. They make a case that Data is powerful, strong, and smart, as property can be weak, stupid, and indestructible, where actual life forms can be strong, smart, and damageable, and vice versa. I don't think a case has been made. So the prosecution's case rests merely on the obvious false proposition that personhood in an entity's physical stature or intelligence, on which analysis a tricorder is more human than Data. So the prosecution made no attempt to define property in a coherent manner, and it's not relevant. And if the question was whether or not Data was conscious, and so the court has no guidance for knowing if the prosecution was able to make its case. Hey, Aram, how's it going, buddy? Technically, if you have a pacemaker, you're a cyborg. It's a bit of a loose definition, but yeah, I guess in the literal sense, if you've got any form of, I guess, robotic haze, you are indeed a cyborg. Have you ever played the game, the Turing Test? I've not played the game, the Turing Test, but I do know how the Turing Test works. So there's some interesting concepts about the difference between human and machine minds in there. I'll have to give that a try sometime. Maybe I'll play it on stream. What graphics card does Data run? Probably an Nvidia. I think Data's more of I think Data's more of an AMD guy, you know, honestly. I think Data's AMD. Terminators claim to be cyborgs, but androids are far closer definition. Yeah, that's true, actually. That's a good point. The real question is, how fucked would Data be in 40k? I think in the lore of 40k, Data would probably be purged as a thinking machine, right? They'd purge him as an abomination. So yeah, Data wouldn't have a place in 40k unless some kind of inquisitor, unless a radical inquisitor like took him into his retinue. Technically, people with glasses are cyborgs. No, not the ATF. That one doesn't work because glasses aren't part of the organic structure of a person. Glasses themselves are property that enhance a person. They're not part of the person's meat sack, right? I remember reading some of David Brin's old sci-fi novels where awakened apes and dolphins are given human rights as they have full sentience. Yeah, it's interesting as well, right? Because it's like, okay, so a life form has sentience, but does that necessarily confer onto them human rights? And what are their human rights? If they have human rights, is that their natural rights as human beings? What about their civil rights? What civil rights apply to them? Whose civil rights apply to them? Particularly when you've got an entity like Starfleet, which isn't a state. It's got its own laws, obviously. It's got its internal politics, but Starfleet does not confer nationhood onto people. It's just it's the Federation of Humanity, right? So, the next point I want to argue is that the Acts of Cumberland are hopefully inadequate for this question. Yet they are the entire statutory basis for the case against Data. So, the judge in this little courtroom drama has stated that the basis for the entire case is an ancient law, which is called the Acts of Cumberland. So from the early 20th century, given that the Federation didn't even exist until 2161, a minimum after a century after these acts were passed, it's questionable whether or not the Acts of Cumberland are even controlling law in these circumstances, since they were created and passed before there was even a Federation government to ratify them, right? How do we, on what basis, on what right does the Federation assume law of nation states that were formulated before its existence? So while it's not uncommon for new nations to import the legal traditions of the predecessor states to, maintain a jurisprudential consistency, such as, the United States inherited a lot of British common law, for example, the Acts of Cumberland address an issue that was relatively esoteric in the early 21st century, but that in an age of holograms, androids, cyborgs, whatever you want to call them, there are issues of significant moral and ethical concern, and such that the importation is inappropriate and prone to error. So the number of candidates for rights under the Acts of Cumberland was likely 0 when the acts themselves are passed. So there's no case law, there's no precedent for it. And it's unclear and circular to argue that all artificial constructs are equally deserving or undeserving of rights, since the Soong type androids like Data are qualitatively how do you say that word? Is it qualitatively distinct from all forms of artificial life that came before it, especially those that pre-existed the Federation itself. So essentially, due to the complexity of artificial life forms, you can't tar them all under one brush, right? You kind of have to almost like assess each artificial life form on a case by case basis. Whereas in this circumstance, I think they're violating Dota's potential rights as they are not taking into account the full context of his capabilities. Might be different in other nations, but the rights here in the US are described as God-given or originating from the creator in the founding documents. I take Star Trek doesn't talk about that. No, Star Trek doesn't talk about that because obviously the Star Trek doesn't really focus on the politics of humanity that much. It's always, mainly told from the perspective of Starfleet itself, and Starfleet isn't a political body. It's a pseudo military outfit, really. The whole point of Starfleet is to explore and kind of develop the science and understanding of humanity and the galaxy. They do perform diplomacy, but they have no right to, I guess, kind of determine and enshrine into law human human rights and prosperity. Hi, how's it going, buddy? So, point number 4, I'd like to argue in favor of Data, is that the prosecution has made no case that a request for resignation should be denied just because the entity making the request is not a person. So, if we return to the prosecution's favorite analogy, whether or not the enterprise computer should be allowed to refuse a refit, is wholly hypothetical and cannot constitute controlling law. So the prosecution cited no precedent, offered no case law to show that an enterprise computer would actually be forbidden from refusing a refit, which might sound ridiculous, I know, in basis. It might sound ridiculous to say that. You would assume that a computer can, refuse to do its job. But again, because there's no precedent, because there's no case law, I think in law you have to be able to justify and argue for any kind of argument brought forward, regardless as to how preposterous it might sound. So, in short, asking the court to decide a whole separate legal question from forming the one that's the basis of the action. So the prosecution has argued that Data was not a person and he is therefore forbidden from resigning. They showed no valid inference from the former to the latter, legally or otherwise. So they've made no clear case, and this should be dismissed with prejudice. IRS about ESO politics. Various Windows OS refuse to do their jobs routinely. Well, they don't have the potential sentience or understanding to refuse to do their jobs. It's just the code behind them, right, which prevents them from doing the jobs in which you pay and expect them to do. Data's a completely different case, you see. And the 5th point I want to make, and this is my strongest case personally. This is the big gotcha for me when it comes to arguing that Data is in fact a sentient life form and not property, is that part and parcel of being permitted to join the military is assuming the rights and responsibilities of being in the military, particularly the rights and responsibilities that come from being an officer, and the great charge that is, and the rule to otherwise would how do I describe this? So it's like being part and parcel of being permitted to join the military is assuming the rights and responsibilities of being in the military. And I guess to rule that he isn't a sentient life form would essentially be contrary to the whole military justice system. So I think this is the only necessary affirmative argument for the defense. Data's personhood is almost entirely irrelevant against the fact that Data, whatever he is, whoever he is, was permitted to join the military. The basic principles of military justice would be completely disrupted if individual determination would have to be made for every single admitted Starfleet applicant. The exact extent of what rights and responsibilities apply to them. So, would the court require every Starfleet officer to walk around with a very specific and peculiar designation saying that this officer is afforded all rights, or that this officer here is afforded some, which contains the following, and that this officer is afforded none? So, obviously, that would never fly in any respectable military outfit, right? The basic ability of the military to run is an efficient and consistent command and control manner with clear guidelines on the rights and responsibilities of its members. And it would be impossible for one to be admitted to Starfleet only to learn later that some or all of their military rights do not apply to that person based wholly on a contingent case by case specific factor of that person. Therefore, the Judge Advocate General must fulfill its mission to maintain the highest standards of military justice and forbid Commander Maddox from carving out a crass and narrow exception to the rules of military justice in explicit service of his personal pet project of dubious scientific value on a highly debatable question of ethics with far-reaching implications, particularly as the man himself admits that he cares nothing for the rights and the laws of the Federation, which also brings into disrepute the standards that would be upon Commander Maddox in his role as an officer of Starfleet, and that he is a prejudicial, hostile, and vindictive prosecutor in and of himself. As Data, if you needed to eat and you didn't eat breakfast, how would you feel to determine sentience? You could do that, but then again, a standard algorithm, you could automate any machine to answer that question, right? You literally just write a string in. If asked a question, like in string contains eat breakfast, run choice stage, pick options 1 to 5 at random. Option 1 is this answer. Options 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all different answers. And then there you go. You've got a learning algorithm. You've got some form of, not even learning algorithm. You've got a form of automation, which is able to answer your question with perfectly human answers, because you get a human being to simply write the string of potential decisions. Starfleet should cite the infamous Ash case of 2122 involving the ship Nostromo. Yeah. It sounds like they should have figured this out before letting Data join. Exactly, and that's exactly right, Clobbering Time. Now that they've let Data in, it's a bit too late for whoopsie daisies and to go, whoa, hang on a moment. It's like, no. Data swore an oath to Starfleet. He is now afforded all the rights and privileges as a Starfleet officer. Can't take it back now. And yeah, it just goes to show. It's very easily done in the military, right? You just kind of accept someone of Data's kind of situation in, and there'd be no question as to whether he was fit to command or not. But obviously, until you've got because there's no prior case law, right? There's no precedent for this decision. But now you've got this bitter scientist trying to argue it. Well, maybe in the future, if artificial life forms want to join Starfleet, then you'd answer this question and then set it into and train it into the law and then recruiting standards. But it's too late. Data's in now. You can't retroactively change his rights. It's not ethical and it's not legal. At least it shouldn't be, in my opinion. So yeah, any more discussion as to whether you guys think that Data is or is not property? I'll play another clip to give you guys time to answer, and then we will see what answers you give. So let's watch the last clip. Objection. Objection. Oh, am I back? Am I back? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, we're back. Interesting. Okay, so the stream does recover. Let's fucking do it again. Let's go. Let's fucking go again. Let's see if it happens. Again. Hang on, let's watch another clip to see if it fucking gets me again. Hell yeah, let's go, boys. I haven't learnt my lesson. I'm doing it again, YouTube. Fuck you. All right, let's go. Let's see what happens. All right, we're gonna skip ahead to leadership. Hang on, let's see what happens. We're gonna skip ahead to leadership.
I've completed my analysis of the signal from the mercenary ship. I believe these groupings represent bearings and coordinates taken from their navigational system.
So you think this is their flight plan?
Yes. If I am correct, the mercenary ship is headed toward these coordinates in the Hyrulant sector.
Well, their maximum speed is warp 8.7. It would take them at least 14 hours to reach that position.
We could be there in 5.
Make it so.
Make it so.
Finally.
Oh, you hear that, Saf?
Set a course for the Hyrulant sector and engage at warp 9.
Oh, he's not having that. He's not having that.
Lieutenant, may I see you in the ready room?
Of course.
Okay, so hopefully if I stop it here, YouTube will leave me the fuck alone for a second. Okay, so anyone, before I comment on this, does anyone want to chime in on what the issue with Commander Worf's conduct there was, and does anyone want to chime in on what they think about how Data is choosing to handle the situation? Because you've been in the military, Pavlo, you're cheating because you probably know yourself exactly why Commander Worf's insubordination here needs to be addressed, and why what Data's doing is good, right? Because this is like textbook how to handle disputes in the military 101, right? So I'll allow you to comment on this and give your take on it, but hopefully any of the civilians in chat might want to offer. Yes, there we go. Clobbering time. Yes, he questioned his CEO's competency and authority. He did it publicly, and he did it in a rude and challenging manner. Anyone else want to chime in? Does anyone think that maybe Data should have done it publicly? Anyone else? Any other opinions on how this is being handled? He did, right? Giving him a bunch of sass, constantly challenging Data's orders. Okay, let's continue on. So obviously Data just said, and as well, it's important to remember, right? So basically what Commander Worf has been doing in this episode is Data's basically captain for like a day. He's captain for the episodes, and Commander Worf has been promoted to second in command. So basically Data is Picard and Commander Worf is Mr. Riker. And what Worf has been doing since the beginning of the episode is he's being a typical Klingon. He's aggressive, he's impatient, he's always challenging Data publicly, and he's making these very publicly and clearly hearable challenges on Data's authority, right? He's muttering under his breath, and he's questioning Data's competency to be in command. So Data knows that this is going on. He can hear it, and the other officers on the command deck can hear it, and he knows that he can't allow this insubordination to go on, because obviously it undermines his authority in front of the other officers, and it can lead to breakdowns in the command and chain process further down the line. So what Data does is, instead of publicly chewing out Mr. Worf in front of the entire command deck, which some might see as an alpha gigachad move to show the rest of the deck who's boss and who's in charge, instead Data is inviting Mr. Worf to speak with him privately in his quarters with a big smile on his face. Now, the reason why Data does this is very good. So Data does this because in handling the situation this way, by being pleasant and not exactly saying why Mr. Worf is wanted in his quarters, it doesn't embarrass Mr. Worf in front of his fellow officers, so it doesn't undermine his authority. It doesn't make Mr. Worf look like a bit of a fool in front of the lower ranks. And as well, it just shows a general kind of cool professionalism and authoritative respect on the part of Data, right? Yeah, public debates are a really bad idea when clashes occur over authority. It was rare, but I have some clashes of personality when one person was in charge and got challenged by a subordinate. Very awkward for everyone else. It's very awkward. It's very unpleasant, and rumors get around, right? The base will be talking about it. Everyone will be chatting about it, and when one person gets humiliated by another one, that affects your opinion of them, right? And then that can affect your opinion of them and their ability in your eyes to, command your unit. I remember watching a Critical Drinker video that covered this moment. Oh, did he? I didn't know Critical Drinker covered this, actually. I'll have to see if I can find that later. I love Critical Drinker. If this conflict had happened in the middle of a pitched battle, the reaction of Data would have been very different. I've actually got a clip of this kind of thing happening in a pitched battle, so we will cover that, funnily enough. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 89. Oh, what does your UCMJ Article 89 say, Aram? And also, by the way, hello, Aram. So, yes, I think Data here is showing the correct and proper officerly way to deal with conflict and insubordination. I wouldn't necessarily expect an enlisted man, an NCO. I wouldn't necessarily expect an NCO to handle such a dispute in this manner. There's a bit of leeway. You'd expect like shouting and the threat, if not indeed the application of light physical force upon a junior, if you've got this kind of misconduct in the lower ranks, right? Not that I'm not condoning that kind of behavior, but I have seen before. I have seen a sergeant give a corporal, not in front of the rest of the lads, but I have seen a sergeant give a corporal a literal slap before for carrying on, in a pathetic way, let's say. Disrespect towards an officer. Disrespect towards an officer, it's written into law. I imagine in real terms, its application is very open to interpretation, right? It's very rare for an officer to be nailed, right, to the wall for misconduct towards another officer. It doesn't set a very good precedent. But hey, Zero, why didn't Data girl boss all over Worf and make him his bitch? I know, right, Zero? That's exactly what modern Star Trek writers would do. Data would be a woman, Worf would be a white man, and Data would be wearing some kind of like pink fucking yoga cloth and would be screaming at Worf in front of the whole goddamn fucking, not just the command deck, they'd be like announcing it over the goddamn tannoy. And going like, oh my god, what is your problem? I am in command, blah 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 blah. And it's like, giga cringe. I expect an NCO to do it quieter than a commissioned, really. It'd be very rare for me to actually hear what was going on, but in my experience, normally an enlisted man is far more likely to issue a slap or threaten to issue a slap after excessive backtalk from a corporal, let's say, or a lance corporal especially. A lot of people forget that NCOs are in fact a type of officer under the UCMJ. No, that's true. I mean, it's not just looking at the sheer legalities of it, it's looking at how things, I guess, unfold in real terms, right? That's what Drinker brought up. Ah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to see what his input on it anyway. Anyway, let's continue on with the clip. See if we get fucking banned again.
Lieutenant, I am dissatisfied with your performance as first officer.
May I ask in what way?
You continually question my orders in front of the crew.
I like this exchange immediately. I'm going to stop it there. I like this exchange. It's very good because Data obviously wiped a smile off his face now, very, very stern. And he tells Mr. Worf exactly what his problem with Mr. Worf is. And he uses good language as well, right? he says that I am disappointed in your performance, and that's different from that adds a new layer of complexity to his grievance with Mr. Wolf when he's trying to correct him, right? If he just says that, if he, for example, he just says that he's getting upset with Commander Wolf challenging his authority. By saying he's disappointed in Mr. Wolf's conduct, he's essentially emphasizing the point that as a commanding officer, he would expect that his junior officers specifically not act in this way. He's explaining in great detail as to why he has a problem with Mr. Wolf. And then Mr. Wolf, again, showing some good character, showing some good command himself. Instead of getting upset, instead of being surprised or incredulous, he straight up just asks Commander Data. He says, "May I ask in what way, sir? How and what ways do I require correction?" So that he can potentially learn from any mistakes and not do it again. He genuinely wants to improve. He genuinely wants to be part of the team, right?
I do not believe this is appropriate behavior.
With all due respect, sir, I have always felt free to voice my opinions, even when they differ from those of Captain Picard or Commander Riker.
So again, there, instead of just immediately buckling under the pressure and saying, "Yes, sir, no, sir, sorry, sir, won't happen again, sir," Mr. Wolf is actually, to be fair to him, he's exercising good leadership here. He is, now that Data has essentially set a precedent where where the two of them are now speaking freely in quiet behind doors, Mr. Wolf is challenging Data and saying that under the previous command chain, I was always free to challenge the decisions of my commanding officer if I felt that they were in some ways inappropriate or a danger to the mission at hand, which is something you are absolutely allowed to do, and you should do if you feel like something is not the best course of action. Just because someone has a higher rank than you doesn't mean they have all the answers. If you feel like you have a better idea, if you feel like the boss's idea is going to lead to people to get injured, to die, to jeopardize the mission, then you should speak and say, "Hey, boss, respectfully, I don't agree with your plan. Here's what I think we should do instead." So again, good leadership here from Mr. Wolf, not just surrendering under the girl bossing Data. Can he beat Admiral Adama? Oh, is that Admiral Adama? Who is that lunatic? Is that what's her face from not Star Trek, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Star Wars. I know. By the way, Pavlo, were you? If you don't want to tell me, obviously don't tell me. But were you a warrant officer, or were you an officer, Pavlo? I knew an XO that clearly wanted to cut a man to the CEO's decisions, but he knew better. The CEO would have gone nuclear on him. Yeah, it's you always get all sorts of interesting and weird personalities in the military, right? I've heard of junior officers and enlisted guys getting into fights over women. Really? That is shocking. Fucking hell. That is shocking if that's actually happened. I've never seen that in my life. I mean, it's not unheard of for them to, I guess, kind of compete over the same woman, but for the two of them to actually, directly, I guess, come into contact with each other over a woman, that is mental. All of my friends that serve say they only have a handful of commissions they thought were good officers, only 5% at most. NCOs is more of a mixed bag. Yeah, pretty much everyone will tell you that. Particularly in peacetime, a lot of people who stay in for an extended period of time, they get consumed by the system, or they're the kind of person who can't maybe particularly make it successful in the private sector. Whereas the military, for all the challenges and rewards and exciting opportunities it offers, does wipe your ass a bit, right? You've always got orders, go here, do this. Some people aren't particularly fit to I guess go into the private sector where it's more cutthroat. And also there comes a point where basically time in service and just ticking the check boxes is sufficient to get you promoted, right? Merit isn't promotions isn't dictated solely on merit. You also need a number of years served, and there's usually some kind of checklist of things that you need to achieve before, obviously, you get promoted. And it like leadership in and of itself isn't actually necessarily a factor that is marked into whether or not you get promoted. True, but you better be damn sure you're in the right. If you push back to your commander in person, you only get to fall on your sword once, so to say. That's very true. It depends on, I guess, it depends on the kind of person your CEO is, what the situation is, and I guess, yeah, the way you come across. So if you basically, approach your boss in a situation where, you're basically indirectly calling him like an incompetent, like fucking idiot, and that you know better than him, that's probably not going to do you any favors. That's going to come across as negatively. You have to be constructive, and you have to be, you have to be positive in your correction of any ideas. It's not saying you're wrong, you're an idiot, we should do this. It's saying, it's you have to sweeten them up a bit, right? You have to be like, that's a good idea, but what about if we did this instead, sir? Or not instead, but how about this idea, sir? Right? Anyone who's been a junior officer has always, particularly in field craft, right? You're doing your field craft. You're on exercise. You come up with a plan. You don't know what you're doing, and the color sergeant, the sergeant with 7 or 8 years experience, you run through your plan with him, and he looks at you, and you can tell he's holding back the cringe, and he says, "Yeah, sir. How about that? That's a fine idea, sir. But how about if we did this?" And that's kind of like a gentle nod, I guess, to kind of say to you, yeah, your idea's crap. Let's go with what the team sergeant says instead. He has a better idea, right? Fights over Bannock Barry, a real thing. Oh yeah, it is a very real thing. I've seen it myself, but it's normally between the enlisted men, right? It's not between officers and enlisted men. Even in wartime's friends, I'm friends with quite a few old dogs that served in NUM, and quite a few were totally not in America doing things. God, the horror stories I hear about what people get up to in places like Japan, Latin America, back when we were stationed in Germany, the British Army of the Rhine, stuff that happened there. Ooh, yeesh. Thank God I wasn't around in those times. Mixing young men and women together in close quarters with lots of stress, leads to not very good circumstances sometimes. But anyway, let's continue the stream.
That is true. But in those situations, you are acting as head of security, not as first officer. The primary role of the second in command is to carry out the decisions of the captain. In this case, me.
That's a very good point. Again, it's not just about the fact that Commander Worf is an officer of substantive rank. He is a commander, after all. He's supposed to be the executive officer of Data, and the executive officer is meant to be, I guess, kind of the biggest hype man for the captain. He's the executive officer. He's the guy who gets shit done. The captain gives an order. The executive officer makes sure that those orders get done. You can't have your XO challenging you, especially publicly. He can voice his concerns in private. The XO gets the shit done. He is not his place to challenge his captain.
But is it not my duty to offer you alternatives?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
But once I have made a decision, it is your job to carry it out, regardless of how you may personally feel.
Exactly, and that's another good point, right? It's like, yes, I've heard your feedback. I appreciate that you feel like things could be done in a better way. Unfortunately, the answer is no, and I am the ranking officer. Therefore, shut the fuck up, Mr. Worf, and do what I say. Otherwise, I will have you thrown in the brig, and you will be relieved of your I'll relieve you of your duties and then throw you in the brig, right? That's leadership.
Any further objection should be given to me in private, not in front of the crew.
Exactly, in
I
private,
do never
not in front
Commander
of the
Riker ever publicly showing irritation with his captain as you did a moment ago.
That's not entirely true. Mr. Riker does at times show his disgust with Picard. He keeps his mouth shut, but you can see it on his face.
No, sir.
If you do not feel capable of carrying out this role, I will assign it to Commander LaForge and return you to tactical. I would not enter it into your record as a reprimand, simply as a transfer.
Again, and this is excellent leadership I find from Data. So Data here is exercising his God, I can't think of the fucking word now. Always the stress of streaming always makes you forget how to speak English, even though it's my primary language. It's another word for judgment. He's exercising his judgment here, and he's thinking, look, I think Mr. Worf is a fine officer. You know, he's my friend. We've worked together for many years. I don't feel like it's appropriate to give Mr. Worf, if Mr. Worf doesn't want to play ball, if he doesn't want to follow my orders, I don't feel the need to give him a formal administrative punishment that would be a black mark on his record and hinder his career in the future, right? Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to lie, but it's an ethical lie, and say that Mr. Worf, we'll have an agreement with Mr. Worf. We'll say, look, we're not going to give you an administrative punishment. We'll both agree you're transferred to somewhere else where we won't be put into this position anymore. And, we'll forget, like, as far as the Starfleet chain of command is concerned, you've got no disciplinaries on your record, so that won't go against you later if you wish to be the captain of your own ship one day. And this is something I feel like really, it's really lacking these days in both military and civilian leadership, is people, I feel like, don't really exercise their... God, what is the fucking word? It's really bothering me. It's not judge. Discretion. Thank you, Pavlo. Discretion is the word I'm looking for. Don't exercise. Yes, this guy's being a bit naughty. I don't think he's the kind of person really he doesn't deserve a serious administrative punishment. We'll figure out another way to discipline them that doesn't, leave a permanent stain on their record. We'll resolve it in a non-official manner, and then we can all go about our days, right? He doesn't have to suffer because of it. I feel like we need more of that in civilian and military leadership these days, instead of just, sticking teutonically to the rules and then putting people through the process, which could potentially permanently negatively affect their career, and may even lead them to potentially, you may deprive yourself of a good officer, a good manager, for bullshit, essentially, right? Words are hard. Words are hard. Yes, no need to make it official. Just move into another ship, move them to another post, right? But at the same time, if you move someone to another post because of insubordination or an inability to follow commands, in a sense, that itself can be just as damaging to someone as an administrative punishment, right? If you've got an officer, for example, who's in an infantry posting, and like 6 months into their posting, they're suddenly transferred, to logistics, or they're transferred to, I don't know, they're transferred to cooking duties, for example. I think any savvy battalion commander could look at that in this history and go, yeah, okay, this guy was not a good company commander. Not even though there's no official reprimand, we're going to keep him in logistics. He's not fit for an infantry command, right? So it can, even if you don't make it official, people can read behind the lines if you do get transferred somewhere else, right? Now, if this was the infantry, Data would invite Worf into the tree line for a little hands-on correction. Yeah, Mr. Worf had Data. They go behind the tree. Mr. Worf's got a nice, big, beautiful face, like we're seeing here, completely unblemished. 5 minutes later, Mr. Worf comes back with a great big black eye, and you just go, "Oh, Mr. Worf, oh, you fell over, did you? You fell over. You had a little accident on as you walked over to that tree. Oh dear, how sad." So, do you want the battalion commander's punishment, or do you want Captain Data's punishment? Which one would you rather have, Mr. Walsh? You want Mr. Data's punishment? Yeah, okay, we'll say no more. We take it you've learnt your lesson now. Let's all get back to our duties. Right? The old German army used to require 3 years of enlisted service before a man could apply to be... Oh, really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. We probably need to go something like that now. I think with the way things are right now, Pavlo, you need to take... Well, I mean, you shouldn't do it, right? Having a fucking useless idiot in charge of people is worse than that position being unfilled in its entirety. But we've got a major issue at the moment, don't we? All of us do, with recruitment and retention of talented officers and enlisted men. There's not much reason these days to want to serve and sacrifice your life and liberty for your country due to certain factors. Praise in public, criticize in private. Well said, Aram. Exactly. Well said. The age-old rule, and the other thing as well is, right, is that people advance, the network in different ways. You don't want to go around making enemies of people in some roundabout way in the whole military and just like management, the chain of command fuckery. Despite this situation, Mr. Wolf one day might find himself 2-3 ranks ahead of Data. And obviously, even if Data was completely in the right to reprimand Mr. Wolf, he doesn't want to sour their friendship and leave a negative impression because, if Mr. Wolf is an admiral, then he could, out of pure spite, prevent Data's ascension to admiral rank. Unfortunately, even the military is not free of office politics. Hey, Ross, how's it going, buddy? Just got done with your first day of work. Oh, you have to. How's it go? You'll have to tell me how that is later, Ross. Actually, we'll have a yapping stream later in the week, and we can just talk about anything. You can tell me about how your first day of work went. But anyway, let's continue on with the stream.
I would prefer to remain at my current post.
Yeah, I figured you would, Mr.
And I
Wolf.
expect you to conform to the guidelines I have laid out.
Fair
Aye,
deal.
sir.
Fair deal. Aye, sir. There we go.
Dismissed.
Sorted.
Mr. Worf, I am sorry if I have ended our friendship.
No, you haven't, Data. You did
Sir.
your duty.
It is I who has jeopardized our friendship, not you. If you will overlook this incident, I would like to continue to consider you my friend.
I would like that as well.
Ah.
Thank you, sir.
I love Data's little body language there. I loved that little shirt. I love that little sweater pop in there. That's anyone who's ever been in management and has had to resolve conflict, but has had that little moment where you're like, hell yeah. But yeah, officers and gentlemen, that was a very touching moment between the two of them. Unfortunately, when you've got two friends who are one day of equal rank and then one of them gets promoted over the other one, there may come a very difficult time. It's not easy, where you, due to your duty, due to your rank, you will find yourself having to punish your friend, and obviously that can have a detrimental effect on your friendship, and it can lead to the death of friendships, and it can lead to challenges with your authority. Your friend might be bitter that they've been passed over. They might be jealous of your situation. But these two fine officers and gentlemen, they've handled their little disagreement here in an amicable and grown-up manner. Not everyone would handle such a thing so much. Yeah, it's not uncommon for former friends who've been uplifted to a higher rank to lord it over and start, dicking on their former friends. And it's not uncommon as well for people to not see their promoted friend as just doing their duty as the ranking officer and thinking that they're some kind of blue falcon, that they're some kind of buddy fucker. You hate to see it, sadly. Promotions tear friendships apart. That's it. They didn't bang. Unfortunately, they didn't bang. I don't think Data has a sex drive, sadly. The power of friendship. Now kiss. The Picard maneuver, exactly. You see in Star Trek, Data oftentimes takes the mannerisms of Captain Picard. I think Captain Picard is like a role model, a kind of mentally fatherly figure to Data. Data always emulates Captain Picard and Picard alone when it comes to outstanding leadership and command, right? It's harsh, but that's just the way it is. That is the way it is, unfortunately. That saw things real quick. I can imagine it did. And I've got one more clip. I think this one I quite like. 1 second. So this one is a different kind of adversarial relationship. So I think this one's pretty good, actually. I find this one quite relatable. So Data has been transferred to a completely brand new ship. He doesn't know any of the crew on it. So yeah, this time he isn't among friends. He isn't in a familiar environment. He's in a completely alien environment. And he's, I can't remember the context of this episode. I think he is a captain at this point, and he's being given command. He is given his own first commands. He's not acting captain. He is captain of a ship for a change. Oh, that's loud. I gotta see if I get copy struck again.
You've got to keep this mixture above 90% or we'll never leave orbit. Thank you, Mr. Craig.
I fucking hate this guy, by the way. The blue on my uniform is because I'm a blue Falcon.
Lieutenant Commander Christopher Hobson.
Fuck you, Christopher Hobson.
By order of Starfleet, I hereby take command of this vessel. Please note the time and date in the ship's log.
Very reasonable. Very reasonable, Mr. Data.
Excuse me, sir.
No.
I'd like to request a transfer.
Why?
May I ask why? I don't believe I'd be a good first officer for you.
Why?
Your service record to date suggests you would perform that function adequately. No, that's not what I mean. I don't think I'd be
When you speak to an officer, you say, sir.
a good first officer for you.
Sir.
Why? Frankly, sir, I don't believe in your ability to command this ship. You're a fellow officer, and I respect that, but
Good, you should.
no one would suggest that a Klingon would be a good ship's counselor or that a Borellian could be an engineer. They're just not.
You're a fucking racist. This is a violation of the UCMJ, whatever. Aram, do you know the UCMJ for this? You're a fucking racist. This is conduct unbecoming of an officer and a gentleman. Quartermaster, take this man away, put him in the bridge. I am relieving you of your duties. You are under arrest, sir. That's how I'd handle this situation personally. But I'm being mean. Let's be serious and continue on.
Suited for those positions. By the same token, I don't think an android is a good choice to be captain. I understand your concerns. Request denied.
Yeah, oh yeah, I fucking love Data. He's the best boy. I love him. He's like, nope, I understand. Nope. I don't know. I don't think Data does exactly explain why he's refused a transfer. One reason why you might refuse a transfer in a real world setting is that this guy here, I think he's the second in command of this ship now that Data's on board. The crew know him. Assumably, the crew trust and respect his authority. He's an experienced and good officer according to his service records. You don't want to let this guy just leave, especially over such stupid, trivial reasons. As much as he may have issues with Commander and don't get me wrong, he has perfectly reasonable potential grievances, right? His rationale is, our new captain is an android. Androids probably don't understand human beings, human emotions. Therefore, he probably doesn't care, about us. He doesn't care about looking after us and our health, right? So he's unfit to be our commander. But yeah, in this circumstances, you don't want to let a good officer go, particularly over stupid reasons, even if he does have a disagreement with you. You want to try and, I guess, correct the behavior and just try to get on with the mission. And and act like reasonable gentlemen. There's some of the biggest lessons I learned from being in a position of command and leadership is that being liked is good. If you can be liked by people, that's good. Ultimately, being liked is optional. They have to respect the rank. They don't have to respect you. It'd be nice if they could respect you. It would be nice if they liked you, but at the end of the day, you're in charge. They have to do what the fuck you say, and if they don't like it, there's very serious consequences for that. You should try, instead of being antagonistic though, you should try to win them over, understand their point of view, and demonstrate a good example for them to follow, because that's leadership. But being liked, being respected is optional. You should, even if you're not liked, you should 9.9999999 times out of 10, you should at least be respected. If you're not at least respected, then you're probably a bad officer. You're a bad manager.
We've arrived at the designated coordinates, Captain. All stop. Notify the flagship that we have assumed station.
Starboard power coupling is overloaded. We've got a radiation leak on decks 10 through 12.
God, no urgency
Why
in
are
his
the backups
voice.
not functioning? There wasn't enough time to test all the backups before we left the yard. Terry,
Oh, there wasn't enough time before we left the yard. You're supposed to be. Who's officer of the watch? Are you officer of the watch? Oh god, for a guy who apparently has a record of excellent command, that's a rookie mistake. That's a very serious error that I wouldn't even expect a lieutenant to make. Honestly, that's a very. I mean, I'm not a Navy guy. I don't understand Navy regulations or how that command structure works. But yeah, they really should have checked that before they set off. And if there wasn't enough time to check it before setting off, that information should have been fed to the captain so that he can then make a decision on the best course of action. Instead, this clearly negligent junior officer has assumed almost too much responsibility and has potentially jeopardized the combat effectiveness of this vessel.
I want you down in engineering working on a new coupling. You've taken the phaser and torpedo control units offline.
Keith, you and I will start bringing the radio.
Don't ignore your commanding officer. Don't ignore the fucking captain of the ship when he's speaking to you, sir. God damn it, sir. I will have you publicly flogged 10 lashes. Don't you dare disrespect your captain like that.
It is inappropriate for you.
And then Data interrupts him again. This is one of those situations where you don't ask for a quiet and, you know, a quiet chat in the private back room. There's very clear, like this officer is being extremely negligent. He's being extremely insubordinate. In this circumstance, you have to shut him up, interrupt him, and take control of the situation because he is essentially trying to command out from under you. You can't let that happen. You have to take charge of the situation immediately.
You to determine a course of action without consulting your commanding officer.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I was trying to safeguard the lives of people on those decks.
Sir?
But you're right. Relay those orders, everyone.
Phasers and torpedoes are back online.
What should we do, sir?
Okay, now this is the point now where you ask, where you bring it to your quarters and you chew him the fuck out. Now this is the time you do it because, excuse me, XO, I don't like your attitude. I don't like the way you're speaking to me. Again, you will follow the chain of military command, or else I will have the quartermaster take you away. You'll be relieved of your command, and we will throw you in the brig. Yeah, you have to nip this in the bud immediately. Yeah.
You will take the phaser and torpedo units offline and begin repairs of the starboard power coupling.
You see here what Data does, right, is that the XO here, he made the right call, but what Data essentially tells him to do the thing that he just did. The reason why he did that is, again, to demonstrate the point that he is the captain of the ship. He is the one in command. Even though this officer made the right decision, in this circumstance, it is not his prerogative, it is not his initiative to make decisions about first running them by the captain.
Thank you, sir. You heard the captain, everyone.
Oh, there we go with the sass. I don't like the way you said captain, son. I don't like the way you said captain, sir. Meet me in my quarters immediately. All right, there we go. What do you guys think about that one? Let me scroll up. Throw him in the brig. Hell yeah, Zero. Throw him in the brig. Hey, Tabis, how's it going? Data has a cat, and this pleases the clan, the clan of the Nekubibi. This is also after Wolf 359. Starfleet was really beaten down, and many ships are only recently built and don't have full crews. Ah, really? See, I barely remember the lore and the chronology of the Next Generation. I've never actually watched like the Next Generation in one complete series. I've only ever watched it in the context of watching it in, you know, TV reruns basically. But I've watched a shitload of TV reruns over the years. There may not have been any other officers to handle the role. Ah, that's true. That's a good point if that's the case then. In the episode, AF was engaging in big operation route. They couldn't move personnel. Oh, okay. Yep. In the Navy, that might end up in a court-martial for the lieutenant. It very well could. I'd certainly take major considerations into administrative punishment for this officer's insubordination. According to your stepdad, anyway. Yep, the Navy punishment would be no gay time for 4 days. Okay, recruit, you're looking like a little snack, but you're being a bad, bad boy, so no little sailor outfit for you. Time to throw you in the brig. And we're gonna give you a spanking, you naughty boy. Might as well summon the Marines to arrest him at this point, sadly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I just said, at this point, get the quartermaster, throw him in the brig. Fucking, I'd be the worst. I'd be the worst captain of like a shipping vessel in the world, right? Just the immediate hint of like pushback for my crew, and I'd be screaming for the quartermaster to throw him in the brig, just so I can say, throw him in the brig, throw him in the brig. Commando, we're running low on bacon. Throw him in the brig. we start throwing people in the brig. That's more bacon for everyone. Throw him in the brig. Got some classic Horatio Hornblower in space now. Good stuff. Yes. Oh god, I can't wait. I might talk about Hornblower next week. I fucking love Hornblower. Hey, Sensoka. How's it going, buddy? How you doing, Sensoka? Disciplinary arm wrestling required. Hell yeah. Disciplinary mud wrestling, I guess, on a Navy vessel. Newly built ships thrown into combat with tethering issues unsolved is a staple. Everyone did in World War II, for example. Shakedown crews to test the ship after it's built as a luxury in wartime. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I don't know what situation Starfleet is in at the time. I imagine if they suffered heavy losses, they're critically understaffed on officers, and they need to get missions done, then I guess they would kind of set sail half-baked. But you would still expect to properly brief the captain on any and all problems in the ship. Again, I'm not a Navy man, but certainly in the Army, if I was taking up a new post, and I imagine they do the same in the Navy, the very first thing that happens between officers, if you're taking over from another officer, is that if that officer you're replacing, or at least the second in command, or maybe the troop sergeant, should be explaining to you, you should get a briefing of some sort, explaining to you exactly what the major problems are, what the operational state of the company or the platoon is in. You need to be informed of this stuff, right? There's no good putting you in charge of, for example, there's no good putting you in charge of an armored infantry platoon and then not being told, right, that like half your IFVs are fucking, don't fucking run, right? You need to be told about this shit, not whilst you're already out, not whilst you're like in the middle of a patrol, right? That the 50 cal isn't working, or that the 20 mic, is broken. It's like, oh, why'd you wait to tell me now? You do that too well. You have practice doing that voice. That's just like my standard American voice. I don't know how to do American accents other than like nondescript chain smoking Texas man and like just really gay Midwestern man, right? It's like what's that guy's name in Torchwood? Captain Jack from Doctor Who. He's my model for the American accent, right? He's like, let's have a gay off. I'm Captain Jack in Torchwood. That and Texan man, right? Texan man who's like, hell yeah, buddy, I drive my black Dodge Ram to work with my cowboy boots and my cattle belt and my 20-gallon Stetson. I go to my job in the Texas oil fields, boy. Hell yeah, I got my ivory-plated M45A1, buddy, and now hell yeah, any goddamn liberals, any of them goddamn Californians get in my way, I just run them over in my truck, baby. My V10 diesel 6.8 liter V10, buddy. Hell yeah, fuck the environment. Motorcycles and Trump, baby. Hell yeah. Right? Jack Harkness. That's it, Jack Harkness. Torment, yeah. Maulington is going mad with power, I tell you. Mad. Mr. Hornblower, I'm going mad with power, Mr. Hornblower. You have to save me. The V10 isn't diesel. Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about a Dodge Ram other than the fact that I want one. I want a big black Dodge Ram with a V10, baby. There's actually a guy who lives in my town somewhere who does own a US import Dodge Ram. I don't know what engine it has, but it's fucking huge. It's ridiculously massive because British cars are about 2/3 the size of American cars and trucks, right? So if an already big truck is fucking like a gigantic on British roads. Austin isn't a part of Texas. I think one of my favorite memes about Texas is during World War II. No, World War One, I think it was. Is that if the USS Texas was sunk by German U-boats during World War One, the entire state of Texas would have seceded from the United States to declare war on Germany as an independent state if they lost the USS Texas in the war, right? US trucks are fucking massive. Yeah, Howie, I want to drive one. I'm going to the US in about a month and a half's time. I'm gonna see if I can rent me a fucking Dodge Ram, or maybe like I don't know, like a Raptor or something. Get myself a comically big truck. Dodge Rams are a bitch to maintain now. You got to spend a pretty penny. Yeah, I can imagine. It's a Dodge fucking product. They made the Dodge Neon, right? It's utter dog shit. You're a Dodge guy. I am a Dodge guy. I like the Charger and the Challenger best. I am a Chevrolet guy too. I actually quite like the Chevrolet Camaro. I'm sad they discontinued the Camaro. I would have liked to have owned a Camaro one day. I guess I could buy import a used one maybe, but yeah, I actually like the Camaro over the Corvette. I want a big black Ram, Maulington 2024. Anyway, let's move on to. Did I lose? No, I've got part 2. So let's move on to the last part of the stream. Today's going to be a short stream. After this part of leadership, I'll end the stream here maybe, unless we've got other topics to talk about. Read down again.
All Federation ships proceed at maximum warp to Gamma Eridon.
Can you project your voice, please, sir? We can't hear it, right? When you're in a command situation, again, when you're in a situation like this, guys, even though you're not being shot at, there aren't explosions going off, you need to project your voice because people might not be able to hear you. They do this in the Navy, right? They repeat instructions that they're given. They repeat instructions that they're given to make sure that there's no miscommunication because it can be difficult to hear people sometimes, right? Project your voice. No one can, like, the sonar man just like 10 feet away can't hear a fucking word you're saying.
Acknowledge the signal. Ensign, lay in a course and engage at warp 9.3.
Oh, he even said it, actually. Acknowledge the signal. There you go.
Aye, sir.
What are you doing?
In disrupting the detection net, the Romulans may
What are you doing, sir?
have caused a residual tachyon signature to form around their own ships.
But we have no way of detecting it.
We have no way of detecting it. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm being pedantic now. Maybe they're more loose in the Navy. You don't have to end every, sentence with sir. I don't know. I hear that they're quite loose with that kind of stuff.
All stop.
Aye, sir. All stop.
Aye, sir.
Sir, the
That's
fleet's
better.
been ordered to Gamma Eridon.
Tachyon signatures will not last long. By the time the fleet is deployed, it will be too late. Begin to reconfigure the sensors to detect ionized particle traces.
Again, Data here, exhibiting good leadership. Instead of ignoring the guy or just telling him to shut his fucking mouth, Data is explaining in detail exactly why he's doing what he's doing. In an ideal situation, this should placate the junior officer into understanding that Data does in fact know what he's doing and he has solid reasoning for his decisions. But for the sake of drama, for the sake of television, I guess it can really happen in real life. The guy isn't having it and he's constantly challenging every decision that Data makes because he doesn't trust him, because he's a fucking racist.
The entire area has been flooded with tachyon particles. We'll never be able to find what we're looking for.
I am aware of the difficulties. Please bring the phasers back online.
That
Yeah,
will
brush it off. Again, now's not the time. They're in a situation here. They need to get on the mission. They need to do it now. No time for any arguments, disagreements. Yeah, I heard you. Just do it, please.
flood 3 decks with radiation.
We will initiate radiation protocol when necessary.
You don't give a
Again, Data again being very reasonable, saying, look, again, here's my rationale. It's okay. I'm in command. We know what we're doing. Let's just get on with it. Yep. And again, this officer challenging Data in a high risk, in the middle of a crisis. Now is not the time. Now is especially not the time to be arguing with your captain.
damn about the people whose lives you're throwing away. We're not just machines.
Mr. Hobson.
Yep. Okay. Now's the time to turn on the heat. You shut this man down. You get him to shut the fuck up, and you try a different approach. Being reasonable with him isn't working. So in the British Army, they have a saying: people respond to two different kinds of discipline. You either give them a carrot, like a donkey, you either feed them a nice carrot, you give them a pet, you feed them a carrot, you say, come here, donkey, I have a nice carrot, you be nice to them. And some people respond to that better. Unfortunately, there are some dickheads out there who only respond to the stick. So if the donkey doesn't want to eat the carrot, then you beat him to death with the fucking stick to get him to follow your goddamn orders. And in this situation, Data understands that he needs to beat this officer. It would have been nice if Data literally beat him to death with a fucking stick, but you know, metaphorically, Data is now going to beat him to death with a fucking stick.
You will carry out my orders or I will relieve you of duty.
Yeah, hell yeah, Data.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
It's pointless. Those readings could be anything. There's no way for us to be sure the Romulans are out there.
Reconfigure photon torpedo warhead yields. Set for high energy burst level 6.
Level
Oh,
6?
level 6.
But that won't even...
Do it!
He said none. He's fed up with his bullshit now. No room for disagreement
Torpedoes
now. Just
ready.
fucking do it.
Another message coming in. It's Captain Picard.
Mr. Data, you were ordered to rendezvous with the fleet at Gamma Eridom. Acknowledge.
Stand by, Captain. Mr. Hobson, prepare to fire.
Didn't you hear? Captain Picard wants us...
Fire!
Ooh.
Fire!
And a bit of a situation there. That's his former commanding officer. That's his beloved Captain Picard is challenging him now. Oh, that'd be a very stressful situation for a person. I can't imagine like my mentor, the person who showed me the way, screaming at me, you know, over the radio, whilst I'm in a situation like that, right? But again, Data here showing well, I mean, to be fair, he has an android, right? But again, Data here showing fantastic leadership. He's remaining cool, confident, and resolute. He is convinced he's making the right choice. He has all the data at hand. He's at the coalface. He knows better than anyone else exactly what he's doing, and he's sticking to his plan, right? He's sticking to the plan. That's what you got to do in this scenario. Even if you now have regrets, you got to stick to your plan.
They have discovered us.
Reverse course. Order the fleet back to Romulan territory.
I fucking love
Commander,
blonde
the
woman.
Duras need this convoy.
She's hot.
Without these supplies, they cannot win.
We
Has a
big
man's
discovered
chin, though.
it's over.
But what should I tell Lursa and Bitor?
Tell them they're on their own.
And that's an example of terrible leadership. We ride together, we die together, leave no man behind.
They're changing course, heading back to Romulan space.
Make a full report to the flagship. Take the main phasers offline and begin radiation cleanup of the affected decks.
Yes, sir.
Captain.
Captain, he's won his respect. In the end, he won his respect. Given the intensity and the frequency, though, of this officer's insubordination, even though I've won his respect, I would still bring formal charges against his conduct. This man has consistently shown himself to be incapable of performing his role as an officer under high-stress situations. He has demonstrated conduct unbecoming of an officer and a gentleman. He still deserves some form of administrative punishment, in my opinion. Stick and carrot. It's an old tool. Exactly. Oh, hey, Eric, how's it going, buddy? Who's Stalker? Stalker? Oh, really? So you should add a sir every other sentence or so? That's the kind of guideline at least a decade ago. We say sir at the end of every sentence. A sir every sentence can get a little overdone depending on the context. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I think in the context in which they were conversing, I think a sir at the end of every sentence is warranted, because again, adding the sir at the end would clarify. I guess it takes the edge off of the insubordination, right? It shows if you're going to be insubordinate and rude, you should at least pretend to be polite about it, right? I miss when sci-fi universes were unique and well written before the dark times, before the Disney. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Phoenix Shaman. Stargate SG-1 Star Trek, Babylon 5, fantastically written series. Yeah, we don't see their like anymore now. Everything J.J. Abrams ruined sci-fi. Basically, everyone these days, they want to imitate Joss Whedon or they want to imitate J.J. Abrams. And I quite like Firefly, but people have been desperately like nerds after Firefly have been making shit imitations of Firefly. They think like the Firefly dialogue has to be every single character or cast in every sci-fi movie. I'm sick to fucking death of like the snarky, funny, don't give a shit attitude of millennial jokesters in all my sci-fi, series these days. It'd be nice to return back to the days like this, or say Hornblower, when the characters were actually reacted and behaved like real human beings, like they actually acted and behaved like officers, military officers with decades of experience, right? I'd be a bit alarmed if my 57-year-old, rear admiral was quipping early 2000s, gamer memes, right? Jar Jar Abrams, yeah. Misa Jar Jar Binks. Take care, Tempest. Take care, buddy. Thank you very much, right? Take care, buddy. Marvel was also better before. Oh my god, struggling to catch up with this stuff. Big love, Lord Maulington. Hey, Shrimp. How's it going, buddy? I don't know if you've answered this, but did you catch the Phase concert? I did. I did catch the Phase concert, Shrimp. I might do a stream on the Phase concert, actually, if you guys want me to talk about it. Yeah, check the VOD out. It's fantastic. I'll do a stream on it, actually. I'll do a stream in a couple of days' time. Say Sir Sergeant, but don't overdo it, or else you end up with a Sir Sergeant sandwich. Yeah, exactly. I've never actually been in a situation like that before. So I've always finished every sentence with, well, again, it's different for officers. Where sometimes it's okay to call other officers, even senior officers, by the first name. Again, depending on the context, right? So yeah, I guess there are circumstances where you don't want to say sir every sentence. But if I'm being spoken to in a rude manner, I want the sir or a rank at the beginning or like the end of every sentence, personally. October 30th, 2012, when Disney bought Star Wars. I mean, again, I'd argue that the Star Trek remake is the beginning of the downfall of sci-fi. I think, when did that come out? 2008, 2009? Whedon, Abrams, and now, oh yeah. I'm really upset about Taker. I really like Taker's previous work. I really like Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit's hilarious. I love that movie. Oh, I know ER, Phoenix Shaman. As YouTuber ER said, everything has become a mix of stark snark and joking inappropriately intense situations. That's exactly it. And that's exactly it. It's tiresome, it's boring, it's derivative, and it doesn't work. It's really it's outstayed its welcome. Concert was really good. I've not seen Concert, actually. No, because oh, hang on a minute. The Concert. I thought you meant like a series called Concert. Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously Nova Crusader, we watched it, right? It's a real issue, having the entire Hollywood culture of almost no military veterans anywhere. Yeah, they used to have like some pretty solid advisors, and you could tell, right, that you had some pretty solid advisors particularly in 90s movies. You could tell that you had some solid advisors on board, like talking to people and teaching them the way things were. Yapping about Phase is always fun. Yapping about Phase is always fun. Yeah, I completely agree with that one. Love seeing the clips from the concert during the Mint performance. Yeah, I do as well, actually. I've been watching Fiola's clips about what Mint's been saying about her time with the Phase Girls. Yeah, 2009. Yeah. The bullshit in Star Wars started before the deal had been finalized. Disney had already started moving their people in. Yeah, and that's exactly why you need to gatekeep people, essentially. I'm one of those people where I always like to share my hobbies and niche interests with a wider audience as possible, because it's always nice to have more people to talk about and enjoy a hobby with, right? But the risk of doing that kind of thing, is that you always run the risk of inviting the I love how every time I look at chat I do the crazy eyes, right? And I'm not actually crazy eyesing you. I've had to turn up the sensitivity on my eyes, because when I look straight forwards at the camera in like my normal setting, for some reason the camera thinks my eyes are like half asleep. So I'm not actually staring at you like a complete fucking psychopath. It's just too much sensitivity. Mint's model juxtaposed to face models is hilarious. Yeah, I guess that's one actually. That actually didn't. To be honest, I didn't actually like Mint's model. I actually didn't like Mint's 3D model during the Face concert. I don't know why she used that model. I don't know if it's because that's the only 3D model she has, or if it was a genuine stylistic choice. But I feel like it kind of did ruin the visuals. It was too, yeah, it was far too just different. I think it really took, it really brought me out of the experience, and I think kind of damaged the emotional, I guess, kind of impact of the concert a little bit for me personally. But I'd understand if there was like some kind of can't be helped, you know, this is all I've got available decision behind that. You know, like when, as I've said time and time before, I'm not a particularly massive, you know, Pippa fan. Obviously, I've said I have a lot of respect for Pippa. I really do like Pippa. I do find Pippa entertaining. I'm just not in the cult of personality around Pippa. But when she started doing her first song, right, when she started singing the ice cream song with the music and her singing, you know, and the whole the camera shots, I actually got pretty fucking emotional myself when I saw that. Even when I wasn't a Kapipi, I was like, my heart kind of, you know, dropped one or two, I guess, levels. I was like, oh fuck, this is it. This is Pippa's bit. I know it's not the first time Pippa's technically done a 3D performance, but this is like her first, you know, really big 3D concert performance. And combined with that song, right, and the camera angle, I was like, oh fuck. And then it's like I see Mint's model come in whilst the Phase Girls are finally, well, Generation 1 are kind of living their dream, and I'm like, yeah, this model's a bit gross, and it's really taken me out of the experience. I'm not gonna lie, honestly. Have you heard of the Riv World series? I've heard of Rim World. I've not heard of Rivwe World. I don't know what that is actually. Clobbering time. I'll have to check that one out. Not the biggest fan, but at least it's funny. Hang on a second, let me scroll up. I think I've caught up. I couldn't watch the concert, sadly, but I've seen clips as well. Looked very well done. Yeah, it does, actually. I was quite surprised. I was very impressed with it. I was most surprised by Leah. Let me save some of this stuff for the Face Connect concert Yapping stream. But yeah, I was most impressed by Leah personally. I was going into it thinking Aruka was going to steal the show. Because I think Aruka is a very good stage performing idol. She actually has more experience than the others doing it, because she did it in Wipeout as well. But yeah, Leah's not only was Leah singing really good. Obviously Leah's a professional dancer. She's got years of dance experience in ballerina, so she's a really good dancer apparently. Which I missed that information when I did the Leah video. I couldn't find that information anywhere. So thankfully some Leah likers told me that. But yeah, what surprised me most about Leah was that she was really good at working the crowds, even though she didn't have an actual literal crowd obviously there as such to feed off of. I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised, honestly, that she was such a fantastic, you know, crowd engager, because that's Leah's whole shtick. She is the Zatsudan deep dive person. You know, you watch a Leah deep dive, you watch a Leah Zatsudan, she talks for 2.5 hours, and it's just her on screen talking. There's nothing special, you know, visually going on, and that 2.5 hours just disappears in what feels like 5 minutes. But yeah, I'm very impressed actually. I think Leah is the best stage performing idol Face Connect has at the moment, and I'm quite surprised by that. I wasn't expecting that one. It might have been her own model, considering she was a guest. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. As I said, I didn't like it, but I understand that there were probably extenuating circumstances as to why she had to bring that model. I've heard that Acolyte might be worse than Halo, which would be impressive if true. I've heard that as well. The Critical Drinker really hates the Acolyte. He seems to like hate it more than Halo. I'll trust his opinion on that one. Yeah, I've heard some stories about what Alex Kurtzman has done to Star Trek. I've heard from hardcore Star Trek fans that it's bad, putting it mildly. Yeah, all our favorite IPs and shit are being ruined by these dumb fucking Hollywood executives recruiting these people, these fucking retards who absolutely hate and despise the product that we all love, right? They hate, not only do they hate us, the fans, they hate the source material itself. They think they can do better, the cognitive dissonance of these people always confuses me. It's like they think they can do it better, but then if they're so fucking good, why do they have to hijack? Why do they have to piggyback over someone else's work? If you are this absolute genius, if you are this mega writer who can do things better than the old sci-fi or, you know, I guess literature greats, then why can't you make your own shit from scratch? Why do you have to ruin someone else's work if you're so fucking good? I don't understand people who are completely and utterly self-aware. I don't understand how someone can get to that point. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. There's nothing wrong with perhaps having ideas above your station. We all get like that sometimes. Sometimes I regularly get ideas above my station. But I'm always kind of drawn back in by recognizing my own weaknesses, right? I understand that I'm not, in fact, God's. I unfortunately, I have come to the realization I am, in fact, not literally the sexiest man in VTubing, which is very sad. But I have to come in. I have to accept this fact, guys. I am not, in fact, the sexiest man in VTubing, really. But yeah, just the state of just the state of mainstream media, mainstream movies, you know, TV these days is so terrible. And I think that's part of the reason why VTubing is still so popular and continues to be popular. People like to hand wave it away as it being, you know, the COVID lockdowns and people not having much to do. And indeed, that might have cleared off a lot of tourists. But one of the major appeals of VTubing, what makes it such a great and entertaining medium, is that for most VTubers, not necessarily all of them, but most VTubers are basically just selling themselves. Some sell a fake image of themselves, right? But some people just sell their genuine interests, passions, hobbies, and skills. And watching a genuine, honest expression of creativity, even if it comes from some like cringe, incompetent, singular individual, like myself, for example, I always find that kind of engagement, that kind of content far more engaging than some cynical, by the numbers, tick boxing, Hollywood executive produced fucking slop designed to appeal to the disgusting Marvel Wojak who will depart with thousands of dollars because, you know, the latest Marvel movie made a reference to something of another Marvel movie or comic from 30 years ago, right? Like, I haven't watched the movie, but, you know, in Deadpool and Meets Wolverine movie, right? I saw that they brought Marvel Blade back, right? They brought back Wesley Snipes. And when they brought back Wesley Snipes in it, and it did a slow walk where he came in, I was actually pretty fucking hyped because he looked the part as well. Obviously, he's not as jacked as he used to be, but I was like, holy shit, they brought Wesley Snipes back as Blades. Oh, this is awesome. I might actually watch this movie. And then the very first thing that fucking Wesley Snipes says is, some motherfuckers are still trying to ice skate uphill. And I was like, oh, fuck off. Fuck off. That was a terrible delivery. It made no fucking sense. And, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember when he said that at the end of the first movie. Like, just fuck off. Cringe, as Sleepy Project would said, cringe idiot, take your meds, cringe idiot. Pisses me the fuck off, man. You'll always be the sexiest man VTubing to me. I fucking love you, Zero, mate. I fucking love you, Mucker. Gives kiss, mate. The pushback of VTubers at ANYC was interesting to see. It was, the anime bros need to, the anime people need to, they're kids in glass houses. They shouldn't be throwing stones. Anime these days is shit. Not all anime is shit, obviously, but a lot of anime these days is shit. It's getting worse. Anime's getting worse. It's becoming just as much goy slop as many Marvel movies are these days. VTubers are the future. We are friends. We are allies. We are adjacent. Get with the fucking program. VTubers are your friends. Get with the program, or we will destroy you. No, but to answer that question seriously, we're not the same culture, VTubers and anime. As I said in my Pippa video, where I made my thesis about the cultural square of VTubing, I have separated VTubing and anime as two different cultures. It is. We are very similar. There is a large degree of intersectionality between us both. I can understand why anime people are getting fed up with too much VTubers in the conventions, right? You go to an anime con, you want to see anime, and then over half over half the stuff on show is VTubing related. That's not what you're there for. It's perfectly. I can see where they're coming from. I understand that they may feel threatened or annoyed that they're getting less anime content and they're being pushed to more VTubing shit. I can't think too harshly for them for feeling that way. But they're right. They're free to express themselves. They're free to express their dislike of it. But they should exercise, some tact and some respect about it, because we will BTFO them if they don't fucking behave themselves, right? To be fair, they did that Twitter, that fucking idiotic Twitter thread that went viral, kind of, right? That got really big. I wouldn't have had a problem with that, honestly, if it wasn't for the condescending, stuck up and spiteful way they did it, right? They just said, man, I like, VTubers aren't for me, but I really do wish an anime convention would have more anime content on it and fewer VTubers. And I would have said, oh, you know what? That's fair enough. That's fine. I appreciate that an anime con, you go to an anime con for anime. VTubers maybe can reduce the ratio of VTubers, maybe give VTubers their own little day or segment where people who like VTubers can just watch the VTubing stuff. But when you put it across in such a passive aggressive anti, fuck VTubers way, that's not going to win you any support. That's not going to win you any kind of people aren't going to take that in the best manner. They're not going to show you any respect for it. Not that people on Twitter will treat you with any form of respect, context or reasonable discussion anyway, even if you are being perfectly reasonable about it. But you don't want to upset the hornet's nest, right? You don't want to upset the hornet's nest. We can all be friends. We can all coexist together in this cringe gay fucking form of content creation, right? The end shitification. Well said, Hobo. Well said. You're the sexiest man I know. Ross, you're the sexiest man I know. I'm jealous of your goddamn hair, man. Fucking hell, you're like the... What's that old biblical story? I think it's David, isn't it? David versus the Goliath, where David had like the fabulous long hair, which gave him super strength. If you don't know, Ross Wright here is basically David. It's literally David from David and Goliath. It's incredible. It's incredible as well, given it. Ross is like in his 40s and he looks fucking 18. It's amazing. Wish I had his genetics. Samson, that's it. Yeah, Samson. Thank you, Samson. Dan Machi, surprisingly deep, given its name. What does Dan Machi mean? VTubers are easy to meet and do stuff based off of it. They are. A lot of the old anime pros as well. People like Giguk, Connor, and Joey have kind of transitioned to doing a lot of VTubing stuff as well. So I guess to kind of go on just a quick tangent as well about a part of the reason why I make the videos the way I do is, obviously, as I've said before, I've been on YouTube since 2004. And I remember the period of about 2006 to, I want to say, 2009 or so. Back in that 2006 to 2009 period, we had a shitload of cringe anime review channels. I can't remember all of their names. You guys will probably help me remind this. You help me remember a lot of things because I'm an old man with Parkinson's. There was a guy beginning with D. There was an anime review guy beginning with a D. I think Giguk was highly inspired by him based on Giguk's content. I can't remember his name. No, not Giguk. He came before Giguk. Oh my god, one of the anime guys kill his parents. One of the anime guys I was thinking of, he was a blonde guy, quite effeminate. He had glasses and he wore this silly red tunic, right? Which is, he's a very nerdy guy. I think he was Canadian. He wore like a bright red tunic, had glasses. He was a blonde guy, and he made a load of like anime review videos that weren't like the proper, serious, kind of snarky, entertaining, but very professional anime review videos you see today. He wasn't like Critical Drinker about anime. It was just some fucking like nerds who was trying his best in his own way to articulate what he thought about an anime and why he really liked it, and then he would like recommend it to other people. Like people like Fellas as well, Fellas from thatguywiththeglasses.com. And as a content creator, I feel much more inspired by these guys who are capable of giving like a fair, I wouldn't necessarily call it an unbiased and objective review, but it's a fair review, right? And you can clearly see that they're genuinely very passionate and they really like the stuff they're talking about. And I much prefer video essays like that than the stuff we tend to get these days now, where it's almost become commodified. It's become, it's become like a production line of video, of like those really over stylized video essays with the, the big bold fonted one line that's like controversial or, dangerous or whatever, and they've all got the same thumbnail, and it's basically just a dispassionate historiography. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like those kinds of videos if I do like the subject, right? Because there's no bullshit, there's no cringe weirdo doing stupid skits and trying to be funnier than he and overstaying like his welcome, which is something I'm always conscious of. I am very self-aware that sometimes my memes go on too long and I am inserting myself way too much into the video, right? But I love that shit though. It's good fun. I love watching people do that. I love doing it. And what I'm just saying is I just miss the old days of like stupid cringe, emergent anime reviews where it was some fucking nerd where about maybe 1/3 of the video is actually pretty decent commentary, and then a third of it is just him mindlessly gushing about how much he likes the thing or hates the thing, and then a third of it is just him being his dorky self, trying to entertain his audience and express him or herself in his whatever his way. I do miss that old generation of VTubing, VTubing anime reviews and anime kind of video essay content stuff. Yeah, it's sad that it's kind of gone away now, and even like in VTubing and anime, it's just been replaced by, plot synopsis. People don't even do like reviews anymore now. They basically just make videos where they summarize the plot for 20-30 minutes, and it's like, you didn't tell us anything. It's like a review of Kill la Kill. So Kill la Kill is about da 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 da, and then in the end da 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 da. What do you think, guys? Smash that like and subscribe button. It's like, you didn't fucking review anything. You just told us what the anime is about. What do you mean? There is no video essay. Is it Diguk? Diguk. Oh, I see what you mean, Diguk. No, I think it was called like Demo something. Demo something. Demo? Demon. Something like that. But yeah, anyway, that's my little rant about how I lament the state of like video essays and reviews these days. Miss the days where I had a bit more soul to them, and I had a bit more personality to them. I was watching your video on Rhea earlier today, and the cops intro still slaps. Thank you, Felix. I'm really glad that I did decide on the cops intro to be the intro. So to give you a little bit of history on the cops intro. Originally, the cops intro wasn't meant to be an intro. It was meant to be a one-shot joke. In my very first video, the video I made, which is called, Phase Connectors, the best VTuber corporation, it was meant to be a one-off joke in the middle of the video. And then I realized after I'd edited it that it was like too long of a joke. I was like, oh, this is like 35 seconds long. This is too long for a joke. It really interrupts the flow. So instead, I'm going to put this at the beginning. I'm going to make this the intro instead. And then what basically convinced me to keep that recurring theme is that my video got shown, and that video got shown on Kiwi Farms. And Kiwi Farms didn't like my video, but they said that this video is worth watching just for the cops intro. Like, this is fucking hilarious. So I was like, oh wow, so if Kiwi Farms really enjoyed that intro, then yeah, I'll keep doing it then, because yeah, if these guys like it, then that means it'll be really popular. So I'm going to keep doing it. There's a fun fact as to how I stuck with the cops intro thing. I've yet to find an anime reviewer that I really click with. They all seem so flippant and snarky, hard to put my finger on it. Yeah, it's like, again, I think it's because people try to imitate, I guess, that the go-to attitude people have is to imitate what's popular rather than just like express themselves in a genuine way. And sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think also what the point is that, angry reviews and snarky reviews have always been the meta on YouTube since the dawn of time. You got Spoonie, the Angry Joe show, Yahtzee, Zero Punctuation, the king of snarky, sarcastic reviews. So even if people are, whether a person, a video essayist is, engaging in this content, essentially just to do it as a job to make income, or whether even if a person is doing it because they're genuinely passionate about the medium and they want to, share their thoughts with an audience and entertain an audience, even so they'll probably just, if not consciously, subconsciously find themselves influenced by the great content creators that came before them. I may not consciously know it, but I'm almost certainly heavily influenced in my content style from, you know, the Spoony one, Yahtzee, because I watched those two all the time growing up. And, you know, people like Germa, for example. You know, Germa's a very skit-heavy content creator. You know, those guys like memes. Spoony or introduced a lot of memes into his video essays as well. He was one of the first, one of, if not the first person to do that, right? The Anime Man. I don't think it might be the Anime Man. I have to hang on, Felix. Hang on, I have to have a look. That kind of rings a bell. Let's have a look. Is it the Anime Man I'm thinking of? The Anime Man. Oh no, not the Anime Man. No, not him. Yeah, he's the third guy on the Trash Taste podcast, isn't he? Joey, I think his name is. I've never actually watched this guy like independently. I've only ever watched him on the Trash Taste podcast. I'm too young to have seen Cops on TV and never really watched it on YouTube, but I always need a Bad Boys song. I think the Bad Boys song, yeah, I guess the Bad Boys song was popularized by the Cops intro. It's also Bad Boys 2. Those were great movies. I miss Bad Boys 1 and 2. Well, I mean, I say I miss them. I could watch them at any point. I miss like that 90s action cop movie, you know, like a Rush Hour and Bad Boys. They don't have movies like that anymore either. You know, kind of, they're not exactly ethnic movies as such. Anyone can enjoy them regardless of your ethnicity, but there's like a very clear, you know, subculture kind of humor in Rush Hour and, you know, Bad Boys, right? You know, Bad Boys introduces, you know, a lot of, I guess, you know, black humor, and Rush Hour is like a kind of like racial, you know, it's like a very American kind of racial based humor. Americans find it funny, and to be fair, I do as well personally. A lot of British people also find it funny to get two people from completely different cultural, you know, and linguistical backgrounds. You know, you stick them together, and it's hilarious, right? To just see them react to situations and, you know, bounce off of each other, right? The Cops intro is so good, though. The Cops intro is very good. I've shown my sadly my final Cops intro. There's never going to be another one. But my latest Cops video, my latest Cops intro, I think is very funny. Pippa screaming as she gets tasered, particularly tickles me. Let me see if I can get it up a second. Hang on, give me 1 sec. I'll get my last Cops intro up and I'll show it again to you guys. I imagine most of you have probably already seen it, but let's get it on stream and talk about it for a sec. Where's the fuck is my profile? There we go. Media. No, that's my thing. Here we go. Okay, hang on. All right, here we go. This is my very last Cops intro. If you haven't seen it already.
Viewer discretion is advised.
You can beat your wife. Sex, pussy, fuck, hey kid, bring that sweet ass over here. I'm not even lewd. I'm not a lewd tuber. Ah, you fucking idiot! You piece of shit. I just want to have sex with my brother.
There it is, the Nichicast back. The Nichicast back.
Cops is filmed on location with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Yeah, the Nichicast back. I fucking love the Nichicast. That's my favorite recurring meme. Oh, I hate everything. I forgot about I hate everything actually, Sunsoka. Thank you, yeah. Hey, well, sorry, I'm late. How much did I miss? You missed everything. I'm just kind of just yapping nondescriptly about anything now. We've gone through Star Trek. Yahtzee Croshaw, man, his Bush derangement syndrome. Oh, I didn't know Yahtzee had Bush derangement syndrome. You know, I never knew he talked about politics. I only ever watched his zero punctuation videos. His Bush derangement syndrome really made his content hard to watch. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's nothing. One of the common misconceptions people make about content creation is people say that you shouldn't talk about politics. It's talking about politics as a content creator is high risk for basically little to no gain, right? It's gonna fucking fuck you up one way or another. But you can talk about politics as a content creator. It's as long as you don't just obnoxiously and constantly talk about it and go on like 2-hour rants and like have meltdowns on stream. As long as you don't do that, you do it in moderation and you're respectful about it. That's okay, right? I don't mind if someone has if a content creator I really like has a radically different, you know, political opinion from me, as long as they're not being like an egotistical fucking baby having a meltdown, you know, on stream. I'm like, yeah, you know what, agree to disagree. I don't care. I just like your content at the end of the day, right? You should copy strike yourself to get ahead of the good. I'm very interested actually to see what happens to this video after we end stream. I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if I'm going to have to like delete some of it out, or if the VOD will remain up. We'll have to see that, right? How did you find such fitting lines? Sorry, I don't understand what you're referencing there, Hobo. I don't know what you mean. Sorry. I always point people to Archie Bunker and its spin-off, The Jeffersons, as American racial humor at its pinnacle. Those are the TV shows I grew up with. The Jeffersons. That name rings a bell. I don't know where I know The Jeffersons from. I don't think I've ever watched The Jeffersons. I might have heard it referenced in pop culture. I guess you find out. Yeah. Oh, the voice lines for the talent. Yeah, you know, it's a good question. I don't know how I find the lines for the voice talents, honestly. It's because when I do, it may not necessarily look like it in the videos. Like in the final product, it may not look like I've done a particularly large. The videos may not be particularly like long or impressive, but basically the way I approach the research for my Phase Connect videos is I probably spend about 100 hours, if not more. Especially in Pippa's case, when I did the Pippa documentary, I probably watched about 300 hours worth of Pippa's content. So the way I go about it is the first thing I do is I watch the most popular clips of that VTuber to get like an understanding as to what people's, you know, what their appeal is, why people like them, right? And you can usually tell that from the clips. The clip highlights generally tell you the most, you know, the immediately recognizable things that people find, you know, entertaining about a person. They, you know, they tell you what a person's content is about. Then once I've got some clips that I personally think are really good, and then kind of I arrogantly assume that if I really like something, then the community really, really like it as well, right? So I use myself as like the litmus test as to whether something is good content or not. So I find a really good clip. I then watch the entire VOD of that clip to see if there's anything else, any other good stuff in there. Timestamps usually help me find like great moments as well. And then once I've watched a lot of VODs, I've grabbed a lot of clips that give me a good context. I then kind of go off the path. I kind of go off the beaten path and then look at that VTuber's content in the very early days. Obviously, I go to watch their debut. I watch their very early streams in the first couple months. I look at their streams in the kind of middle of their journey as well. So like in Pippa's case, look at Pippa's early 2021 content, skip to mid 2022, and then, you know, current day at the time, late 2023, right, to get the full picture. And sometimes many of the biggest moments have been clipped, and that makes it easier to find, you know, certain voice lines. And some of the voice lines I just remember, they just strike out to me whilst watching a VOD, even on timestamped VODs. And it just, for some reason, it never leaves my memory. I almost like have an almost like savant, like autistic savant level of memory when it comes to good lines said by VTubers. So obviously I haven't touched any Pippa related VODs or content since the Pippa video, which is coming on for a year now. And I still remember some of the Pippa's like untimestamped VODs and collabs and some of like the iconic moments from it. Not only do I remember the moments, I even remember the exact time in the stream that these moments occurred, even though they aren't timestamped. So for some reason, I'll never forget this, and I don't know why. Like whenever I think of Pippa, for example, I always think of the collab stream she did with Lumi back in about a month after Lumi joined Phase Connect, right? And Pippa, I just remember it was a Cuphead stream, and Pippa went on like a 20-minute rant about how admitting how she's super parasocial for VT, as in 4chan VT. And for some reason, I have never forgotten this one moment of Pippa's career, despite not having visited it in a year. It just doesn't leave my head for some reason. But that's essentially how my video process works, and that's how I remember lines. I just, rather than remembering them, I just don't forget them for some reason. Next time, maybe have still images of your show with the audio. Maybe that won't trigger it. Ah, yeah, that's a good idea, Hornetworks. Thank you. I might try that. That's a good idea. Next time, do this as a short. Do it. Oh my God, Pascal Saucer. I'm a fucking retard. Of course, that's why they do it as a short stream. Of course, that makes so much sense now. All this time, I've been wondering why they do a short stream when they do this stuff. If you guys don't know, by the way, there's a trick with YouTube. YouTube generally doesn't hit you with any copyright bullshit if your videos are short. You can use copyrighted music and videos in shorts and not only not get punished for it, you can get it monetized as well. You only get demonetized for bad language, or if your short is entirely just copyrighted material. So that's why they do the short streams. It's a very clever trick that YouTube hasn't catched onto yet. I've become a sound savant. Yeah, that's right. I can't forget anything. It's a gift and a curse. It is a gift and a curse. I want to forget some of the depraved, weird shit I've seen VTubers do over the years. I can't fucking forget it. Get out of my brain, Pippa. In my dreams, as I lie awake at night, I can hear it now. All I hear is beep, 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 beep. The PPPs won't leave my brain. They're stuck in there. But yeah. Anyway, a nice, short, sweet stream today. I'm out of, well, I'm not out of shit to yap about. I could keep going on for another 4 hours, but we'll end it there. I'll go send you off to someone else. Oh my God, there's a lot of fucking people streaming at the moment. Let's see, who should I raid? I will raid. Actually, let me refresh YouTube just to make sure the list is updated. It's I always get anxious. I always get last minute shyness about raiding the Phase Connect talent. I hate having my name read out on stream. I hate being recognized by the streamer on stream. I'm the exact opposite of most VTuber fans. I don't like it. But yeah, maybe let's raid Panko. Let's see if Panko has got raids turned on even. But thank you very much for tuning in for today's stream, guys. I had a lot of fun. The fucking getting copyright struck was hilarious. We'll see if my channel's in big doo-doo. Hopefully not, because I want to get this fucking Phase documentary out in the next month or so. Better not goddamn stop me from uploading. I better not be in too much trouble. And thank you very much for the gifted memberships, Pavlo. Thank you very much, my buddy. Next week, I'm not sure what I'll do next week. Maybe I'll do Horatio Hornblower next week. And we can talk about the old Aegis sail and ships and old Royal Navy officers, right? Panko has the raids turned. No, she doesn't. Okay, let's raid Panko. Okay, guys, take care. Have a good evening, and I'll do the Phase Yapping stream. Maybe I'll do that Thursday or Friday. I'll make up my mind later. Okay, anyway, take care. Bye-bye, guys. Love you.